no one's going to give you what you want if you don't know what you want. The last meaningful SEO job I had was working for a little company that had a website. When I leave 6 years later, it's getting 185 million visits a year. What would you do if your job was to govern content that makes or breaks your product?
Nick Musica is a seasoned SEO expert with over 2 decades of hands-on experience. From leading SEO efforts at Escherance and Rocket Lawyer to co-authoring a book on search and usability, Nick now heads Optics In, an agency helping small businesses thrive online.
At this point, there is no AEO without SEO. Before there was Google, there was Yahoo. Before there was Yahoo, there was Bing. Keep on going back, AltaVista, whatever, Metacrawler. It kept on changing, but findability was always true. And so AI is going to change all that? It's not. It's still part of retrieval. Someone's going to ask a question, they're going to get an answer back. So now the job is...
Hey everyone out there, my name is Alan, CEO of FreeCashflow.io, and welcome to Profit Powerhouse, the podcast where we sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs and uncover the secret behind their success. We're here to learn what drives their growth, the challenges they overcome, and how they master their finances. Our goal? To help you achieve the same success while maximizing your profit. So let's dive in. Today's guest is a seasoned SEO expert with over 2 decades of hands-on experience. Nick has been in the game since 2003. He's led SEO efforts for major companies like High Point Insurance, Esurance, and Rocket Lawyers before founding his own agency, Optics In 2019. At Optics In, Nick and his team focus on SEO and web design strategies for small businesses across industries like finance and tech. He's also the co-author of When Search Meet Web Usability and has shared his expertise through teaching at NYU and speaking at conferences like SMX in Germany and ClickZ in San Francisco. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alan. Good to be here.
Can you share just a little bit about your background and really what inspired you to start your business?
Yeah, I found that there was a lot of my experience from 20 years ago that was still at play 20 years later, right? So we'll call it, I'm going to do some rounding for my own, emotional well-being.
We love rounding.
We're 20-ish years ago. I was working at one of the babies of AT&T and working on a little project for this larger company. It was like 4 of us. It was cool. It was an internet fax company. The project,
fax.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Internet fax. Hold on. Internet fax.
eFax. That's the latest.
That's right.
The latest, right? Yeah.
They were the competitor at the time. Yeah. I think they ended up purchasing the product. But we were working on internet fax. It was a big thing, especially for businesses. And we were a little skunk works, 4 of us working on it full time in this bigger organization, and we hired an SEO company for a 6-month contract. This was 20 years ago, right? And the first month of deliverables was 4 PDFs, right? 1 PDF, 4 pages. And they did what would equate to like SEO auditing editing. Right. So like an easy way to do it is if you were to read your copy and ask what kind every time you saw a service or a product. Right. So like when I was working at Esurance, I would read the copy and sometimes the copy would come across some very good writers and it would say insurance. And I would say, OK, so what type of insurance? And then I would because we didn't sell insurance. It's a category. It's not a product. Right. So car insurance. And so they would do stuff like that. Like, so what type of fax? Internet fax. And there were 4 pages of that. So like if you were to imagine the red lines, it was like 10 red lines, right? Like across 4 different pages on 1 PDF. And the cost at the time, 20 years ago, for the monthly service, which was this 1 PDF and like a phone call or 2, was $6,000.
That's
right?
Wow. I'm just trying to think of inflation from 20 years ago, right? What that equates to. That's pretty insane.
Holy moly. That was right 20 years ago, right? And so month 1 was that. Month 2, the same. It was either month 3 or 4. I go to my manager. I'm like, we got to talk about this. This is $6,000. He's like, let's see what they give us next month. And they come back with this document about interlinking, cross-linking from your pages of your website, right? And I was excited because I'm like, what a time-sucking, mundane thing. Like it is awful. Like it's tedious to do that type. And it still is. And I open up this 1.5-page document and it's like best practices of cross-linking, interlinking.
Best practices.
And I'm like, cool. Like they're given the lay of the land. Like it's educational. It's cool. Where are my recommendations for my website? Right? Turn the page. Nothing. Have a nice day. I'm like, you're kidding me. you're kidding.
You
So
pay $6,000 a month for a brochure, basically.
for something that maybe if you're in this space you would have as like a lead capture, a lost lead, if you will, right? Like
Yeah,
it was
like an ebook, like a free giveaway, right, type of thing.
Yeah, a giveaway to maybe grab someone's email, right? And I copy I copy and paste a couple lines out of it and I dump it into Google. And I can't say it was identical, but I can say it was pretty darn similar to what showed up on the right. Like it just was.
Yeah.
And so I go to my boss and he's like, okay, so here's what I want you to do. I'm going to cancel the contract. I'm going to do it today, but I want you to go find someone who's going to train us. I want them to come in, validate what we know, correct the things that we have wrong, and fill in any gaps. Go find that person. Okay. So it was my job to find that person. And I found Sharie Theorough. Sharie was practicing SEO since, I don't know, 1999, something like that. And she came in and she did just that. It was a day or two of training. I forget what it was. And so like you felt like you knew what you were doing after that, right? It goes from this convoluted $6,000 a month, not clear, like this black magic type of thing to, oh, these are the factors that are at play. Oh, it's your technical. Oh, it's your on page. It's your off page. And she just goes through each and every one, right? And at the end of it, she says, so here's what's going to happen to one or both of you. You're going to get a new job in a couple months. And I didn't like my job. And this company was known for annual layoffs, right? It wasn't a great place to work. Steady for me, but not a great place overall. And so I sort of raised my hand. I'm like, well, so why do you say that? Hoping my boss doesn't notice. She goes, because it happens every time I train someone. They get a new job. And I'm like, cool. And sure enough, that's when I got a job working at High Point Car Insurance after that, a highly competitive industry.
It was cool. Like a fortune teller.
It was cool. Yeah, it was cool. She said it. It was true, And so fast forward to, September 2019. I'm coming off of a couple I was always in-house. I was in in-house SEO for years and years and years. And the last big job that I had, or the last meaningful SEO job I had, was working for a little company here in San Diego that had a website. And when I got there in 2012, the site was getting about 85 million visits a year.
Wow.
through SEO. Incredible. Right? When I leave 6 years later, it's getting 185 million visits a year, largely through SEO, right?
Wow.
Amazing. Right. And so where do you go from there, right? That was my problem. Is like, where do I go from there? Like what was interesting to work on after when you do that, right? When you get those results, and I worked with teams and helped, grow the company from 7 to 40 people and revenue that would match that. So I ended up working a little startup for a while. Wasn't a good match, and then I'm like, I'm going. And I was running the startup. And so I want to focus on SEO. And I had that, some of those sound bites from the Sharie story that I shared, like it's still confusing. It's still confusing today. And it really shouldn't be for a lot of folks. But there's a lot of, SEO has a checkered reputation for very good reasons. And so I decided to hunker down and work with folks who have the will and the budget and the patience and the expectations to build their SEO results over the long term. And it's typically folks who aren't looking to dive in for a year or two and sell it. That's not, that's, you probably don't want SEO. You probably want to get a big media budget, throw it at it, turbo those numbers. You're not building a long-term brand, a long-term company to grow and have. It's a different motivation. It's cool. It's just probably not where SEO should live a lot of the times. So I stepped out in 2019 and to focus on Optics In. And I left the last job, and I left the last job for a couple of reasons. One, it wasn't a good fit. And two, it was a CBD company that was operating for a couple of years, publishing company.
Yeah.
And it was operating for a few years. And by a few years, I mean, it was operating before the Farm Bill of 2019, December 2019 or January 2020. I forget which one it was. But that Farm Bill gets passed, which makes CBD legal. This is important because this company and a lot of other ones were operating when it wasn't legal. Right?
Yep.
And so a lot of and so a lot of folks in the SEO space go, SEO, what Google says, all the things. It's true, mostly, but there's other factors at play. In this case, the factor that was at play was fast forward to May 2020, and our traffic drops like a rock. And it's not just our traffic, it's all the other folks who are ranking on page one the day before, who were operating before the Farm Bill became legal. Before CBD became legal, right? Mm-hmm. It would appear that there was about 6 months, 5 or 6 months, that Google said, now that this thing is legal, we are going to let a new slew of folks come in, wait 5 or 6 months, and then we're going to flip that switch, because everyone, after we got demoted to bottom of page one or page two, never heard of them. It was the first time seeing these guys. So I'm doing the math, right? Because we lost like 40% of our traffic and therefore matching revenue, give or take, overnight. I'm doing the math of what's in the bank, how much traffic. Let's assume this run rate is going to be steady. Like let's assume that, the new run rate. Right. And I'm like, so I'm gonna fire the young lady who I hired on week 1 of October, and then week 2 of October, I'm gonna fire myself. That's how this is gonna play out, right? The numbers are dictating the story here. Mm-hmm. So it was August, and I gave my notice, and I didn't have any contracts, zero, none, zilch. And I thought I gave 4 weeks notice, but apparently I couldn't read a calendar, and I ended up giving it got 5 weeks for whatever reason. It worked out, and it was about a week or two before. I think it was September 6th was my start date for myself, and it was about a week or two. It's like midnight, and I'm printing out statements of work. I'm printing out 3 statements of work that are going to kick off on September 6th. Right. And like literally like 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before, whatever it was, when I gave notice, certainly none, they just did not exist. And so at midnight, I'm printing them out and I'm going, oh man, like this is happening. Like, this is actually happening. This is super cool.
Incredibly fast, right? At that.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So I walked into, and it wasn't just 3. I think I ended up with like 6 SOWs, various sizes, kicking off day 1. And so for the first like 3 or 4 months, I was working like 60-hour work weeks, all paid time. And good thing, because if I didn't, I would be working to get those contracts 60 hours a week, not paid time. Right. So here's a lesson for folks who are like, I don't know. 1, your business plan shouldn't be, which was mine, I'm going to make it work. I don't recommend that for anyone. And that was literally what I told my wife. I was like, I'm going to start my own thing. I'm going to make it work. Done and done. Thank God she didn't say, so walk me through this business plan of yours. Right. It was a lot of hope and duct tape and WD-40, like holding this thing together, and, but it was sort of time. It was sort of time. And there's, when you make a bet on yourself, like when you really make a bet on yourself, and that was full commitment, right? It was full commitment, quitting at the time. And again, folks out there who are listening, grain of salt, right? You're either there or you're not. This is not a time to fool yourself. There's a lot of folks who are going to be like, build a thing, whatever it is, to a certain degree, and then make the jump. I did not do that. I didn't do it. It worked out for me. I'm not saying it's going to work out for anyone. Not saying it's not going to work out for anyone. But that's what I did, right? Full commitment to it. And I learned a little bit of the pre-commitment, probably 2 months before I quit my job, a month or so before I quit my job, and 2 months before I started the company. I was on the phone with someone who actually was one of the SOWs that kicked off. And we were sort of just getting to know each other. It was an introduction from a colleague. And he knew I was not going to stay where I was. And he says, Nick, so what do you want to do? And I said, I'm not quite sure. I'm figuring that out now. And he says, and he didn't say this with any malice or ill intent or any attitude or anything. He just said this as a matter of fact. He says, so when you know what you want to do, let me know. And at the time, I thought it's super kind, right? And I hang up the phone and I immediately get irritated with myself. And I'm like, no one's going to give you what you want if you don't know what you want.
Very true.
Right. And right there, I was like, I'm never going to tell someone I don't know what I want. You ain't going to get shit. So I quit. And, 5-ish, 6-ish years later, ups and downs, but it's working. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Nick, I always say like the journey you describe is ideal, right? I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs out there dream of that. It's like, I'm just going to quit a month later. I'm going to have, 6 to 9 SOWs sitting on my desk, all these clients lining up. But I know the other side of it, right? Some
That's
folks who start their own thing, it's a slow grind, right?
Totally.
They struggle to get things going, get the word out. Maybe they don't understand SEO obviously as well as you do, right? So they don't know how to get their name out into search engines and get themselves out there, right?
Yeah.
So, but I feel like it's also incredible to hear when there are inspiring stories like this, because it lets folks know that there's a whole other side if they want it, and they need to define it and be able to take the reins and own it, right? Make it happen. And I'm sure even though the beginning seems smooth, like you said, there's bumps along the way, right? That I'm sure you have to overcome. Is there any challenges you want to share with the audience so we can talk about the other side, right?
Yeah, I gave you the romantic version, right? It's true, but it's also romantic, right?
Yeah. But we got to go caution to the wind and be like, what is the other side? What's the hard part?
So like at the end and everything worked out. No, right?
Never after, right?
No, yeah. It's it is a grind, and some days you go, what am I doing? And like there's got to be an easier way to do this, and for the amount of time and energy putting into it, like. Mm-hmm. Yes, other people would pay me more. Absolutely, 100%. And it would be other people paying me more, right? It wouldn't be a thing that I was building for myself. So there's a difference. Right. One of the challenging parts was one of those contracts. When COVID hit, they were like, we don't want to do it anymore. And it was a lot of money, this contract. Like, we just don't want to do it. And so I had to deal with that, right? It was the first loss of client.
Yeah.
And
big deal.
And I talked to a lawyer, and they're like, did they pay for the work? Are they all paid up? Yeah, they are. He's like, I encourage you to go find people who are going to pay you for the work. I wouldn't chase them. Okay. And COVID is hitting. And right. So like, it's a brand new world, right? It's a brand new world at the time. So I didn't think chasing them would be productive. And COVID being a thing where everyone's changing their minds on things, right? The world's shifting and changing at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, this is, I'm going to listen to his advice, and I'm going to just go get some new clients.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, it happens, right? To everyone who runs the sort of agency, right?
That's
clients come and go. Retention rate varies at those times, but
it's the deal. It's the deal.
Yeah. I mean, you got to work with folks that finds value in what you do, right? I think those are going to be the long-term relationship you want to build. Nick, I know there's a lot of myths out there, even today, about SEO. Is there anyone in particular that's interesting or funny to you about, when you meet a new client, they like me, it's like, hey, I think SEO should be like this. And you're like, no, it shouldn't be.
It's the way that I think about it and pitch and talk about it is there's 3 elements of SEO or a 3+1, and I'll explain that. But they are just as true today as they were 20 years ago. The difference is the expression changes, right? So there's technical SEO, which asks the question, can Google crawl and index my website? Yes or no? And if it can, how efficiently? It's very simple. There's a lot of details in there, but that is the one question we ask. Can it do it? Yes or no? How efficient? That's technical SEO. The second is, what do you say about yourself and how do you say it? What's the language you use? Who are you talking to? How explicit is that? Is it a video? Is it a PDF? Is it on-page HTML, right? So what do you say and how do you say it? Again, the details have changed over 20 years, but the fundamental, same. And then links, very similar to on-page, but it's on someone else's website. So who is linking to you? What are they saying? What's the quality of those websites that are linking to you, right? Very simple. It's hard to keep track of all those things unless you do it for as long as I have, or you are dedicated to doing it. But if it's like 10% of your job, at some point it's 0% of your job. Like, you're just not paying attention to it. Because if it's okay, or if it's slow, and both those things can be true at the same time, you sort of lose interest in it. The thing that keeps me interested in it is, after all the work is done, at some point you get this pop. It's like a 401k plan, right? It is boring to contribute all day long. It's terribly boring. But if you do the math, roughly 10% increase every year, make your contribution, et cetera, et cetera.
Compound interest, yep.
Oh my God, like, what a wonderful story that is. And so if you do not have bad tactics if you are patient, if you do the right things consistently, you tend to get a very good result. And so people are oh, but so the latest version of this is, but AI and all the things, before there was Google, there was Yahoo. Before there was Yahoo, there was Bing. Before, keep on going back, AltaVista, whatever, Metacrawler. It kept on changing, but findability was always true, right? People did a query. You literally didn't exist before they hit enter. And now you magically exist. What a magical thing that is for businesses, right? It's super cool. And so AI is going to change all that? It's not. It's still part of retrieval. Someone's going to ask a question. They're going to get an answer back. So now the job is, well, what are the factors, if any, are part of that? And the answer right now is not much, if anything, outside of the things I described for SEO and the details that we didn't talk about because there's too many to talk about right now.
Right.
When the day comes, and I literally got an email yesterday from a prospect saying, so are we going to talk about AEO? Are we going to talk about artificial, retrieval? And I said, at this point, there is no AEO without SEO. There is none. So we're going to work on your SEO. When something changes, if it changes, we will talk about that. But right now, there's literally nothing to talk about. We're going to focus on what makes sense, what works.
No, that makes a lot of sense, Nick. I think a common trend I see is obviously you work with huge clients like Rocket Lawyer and Esurance, right? These small businesses, they come with smaller budgets, right?
That's right.
So I'm sure they're approaching you and be like, look, Nick, I only can spend $2,000 a month max, right?
Yeah.
On my SEO budget.
That's right.
What can you do about that? Can you work with that? Or are you going to tell me, I'm not going to see any growth till 12, 24 months later when my business probably die by then,
Yeah. And so it depends. It depends on the business, right? And so we work with folks who are in a position to have the budget to grow, right? They've already used channels, be it paid or social, whatever it is, and they've gotten to the point where it's a little stagnant. And so now what? There's this whole other channel. And when you go to Google, Bing, pick your favorite search engine, DuckDuckGo, whatever it is, and you do a search for your product or services and you are not found, but the guy who is at the booth next to you, right, at that conference, who is your competitor, he's there, it sort of gets under your skin. Well, you can do something about that, right? You can do something about it. And so having that person, that competitor in your line of sight and wanting to take them over, I get folks like that showing up to my door. I've sort of had enough. I want to rank better. I'm tired of this guy selling more things than me, having more visibility. I'm tired of people walking by my booth and going to him because they know who he is, right?
Yeah.
The internet's a magical place. It levels the playing field quite a bit. So there's a client we just wrapped up. We're in the process of wrapping up, actually, the next couple of weeks. And they are in the health and wellness space. And there's a head term. There's a whole lot of volume behind it, a lot of volume. They have a product, right? It's a health and wellness product. Last time I checked, which was like a week or two ago, they are ranking right below the ads. There's a ton of ads. It's a product. So there's Google Merchant, right? There's products up there. They're ranking number one above WebMD.
Wow.
Right? Above, check this out, above Amazon. These results, I know, these results are not typical. They are not typical, but they have a very good product. They had a good site. We made it better, right? The site that I'm leaving with is not the site that I found after the 6 months SOW. So it is possible. It's possible. And even with all that noise at the top, and I'm like, really? Like, how much traffic are they actually getting from this term? It's significant. It's a significant amount of traffic for the term. And you would think after all these things and below the fold, like, who cares? No, care. You should care. Right? And there's people
absolutely should.
And there's people who don't want to buy from Amazon, especially now. Give or take, whatever your view is, doesn't matter. But I don't want to contribute to a big company like that, or whatever reason. What I want to buy from experts in the field, right? So be that expert. You can compete.
That's very interesting, Nick. I know you alluded to this, but is there a sweet spot, right? If it's revenue driven, maybe website volume driven, what is that sweet spot that you've seen that you're like, I know I can help you guys because you're like the perfect candidate for my perfect
Yeah.
recipe on SEO?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is when someone shows up and one or all of these items are at play. We haven't done much for SEO. We've been in business for 2-3 years.
Okay.
We've done the right things, albeit maybe not optimized. We haven't done anything to game the system. We haven't screwed up our website in ways, right? Like a neutral base is very exciting to me. It's very exciting because if you lasted 2 or 3 years, it means you can run a business, you can hire people, you can function well, you have a product people like, right? Give me that all day long. And if it's a high ticket item, or if it's a item where there's a lot of volume and it's a decent ticket item, that is a dream. That is a dream come true. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Listeners out there, if you fit this criteria, you probably need to talk to Nick, right, on how to really super boost your business. Nick, so I know you kind of alluded to too, you help a current client kind of fix up their website, which really boosts their SEO and the presence on the internet, right? What would you say is like some red flags you've seen? I'm sure you review hundreds, not more websites, right? Across like, I don't know, UX design maybe, or placement, or just maybe wording. What is like a thing that you can meet is like, yep, this is why they're not doing well on Google.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing is language, right? So what you say and how you say it. If you are not using language that people are searching for, using to search, you're just not going to be found. Very simple. You're not going to be found. So if you have made up language or it's not optimized, I'll take the example at eSurance, right? So John, who was a fantastic writer, comes over to me one day after I call him over and I say, John, can we talk about your page? And John knows he's a good writer, right? So he's like, who's this guy? What is he going to tell me? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm reading the copy and I'm just pointing out places where he says insurance, because it was like a comprehensive car insurance page, something like that,
okay.
A coverage. And I said, John, so in the sea of the internet, we need to give our site context, aboutness. So the language we use gives it context and aboutness, and therefore Google knows how to categorize it and therefore rank it at some point. Sure. And so when we say insurance, it doesn't mean anything. We don't sell insurance. We don't. We're an insurance company. But what we sell is car insurance and home insurance and renter's insurance. And so when I see insurance and it's not referring to insurance company on this page, I don't know what we're talking about. And he's like, so I just need to put car in front of insurance? Yeah.
I was going to say, is that?
Yeah, you do. And that's what he had to do. Right. But that's not true for all writers. Sometimes there's not good writers out there. Right. Or the copy is not good or it's too small. It's just not great. But for John, it was, we just need to put a little more context on this page. Just gotta shine it up a little bit and that thing glows. For other folks, and I've seen this, it's more pervasive now than ever. The go-to is like AI content. And it's like, that's cool. So let's try to understand how that's going to work out. Let's just play this through, right? So you went to ChatGPT, which can be a wonderfully useful tool. Don't get me wrong. For planning specifically, in the case of content, chances are you don't want to write 100 pages using ChatGPT. Chances are. I mean, maybe you're better at prompts and you're really good and prescriptive, maybe. But a lot of folks do this. Give me an article about X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah. Well, prompt, right? Yeah.
And here's the trick. It outputs a page and you read it and you go, not so bad, not so bad. And the less you know about the topic, the better the page looks.
Okay, I can see that. Yep.
Right. And so what happened there? That prompt went out and grabbed its training data or the internet, depending on which one you're using. And what did it do? It went for the first 10 results, 20 results, grabbed back bits and pieces, rewrote it, and then spit it out. Mm-hmm. And not only did you do that, but 100 of your friends do that. And by friends, I mean competitors. Mm-hmm. And so now everyone has a version of the same page. Why should your version outrank what is currently there? Why is it better? There's nothing to make it better. Nothing at all.
Because you're rewriting what's available. Right?
What's available. To the point of, I guess it was, I'm losing track of time. But like 6 months ago, just time in general, Like 6 months ago, Google stopped crawling and indexing pages because it was all the same garbage. So people who are producing one page are now producing 10. Those who are producing 10 are now producing 100. Those producing 100 producing thousands, right? The index gets, or the Google gets flooded with garbage. What would you do if your job was to govern content that makes or breaks your product? You would hold back. We don't have the resources for this garbage. We're not going to do it. We're going to figure something else out, right? That makes sense. So what do we do? Well, the outlines may be great. The content is terrible. Don't do that. Don't do that. What is unique for your company for this topic? And tell people about it. If you've been in business for 2 or 3 years, you have wins, you have losses, you have testimonials, you have places where your product works better, places where it doesn't. You have tables of data you can share if you wanted to. Get a customer on the line, get a quote, right? Create actually good infographics. Infographics were the cool kid for years, and now they sort of went by the wayside. But visual elements, videos, get something on those pages that is actually about your company, something unique to you, something we can only hear from you. There's a whole lot of talk about storytelling out there. There's a whole lot of bad storytellers. What is your story about this? What is your connection to the product? There's multiple ways we can go about it, but brands today are largely tied to the people behind the company. Oh, I like this company. I'll support them, right? People have choices today. So tell people what you're up to. Give them your perspective. Share with them the information, the ups and downs. I mean, sort of like we're doing right now, right? Right. Not everything is glossy. Like it sort of sounded glossy when I'm like, and magical, 60-hour work weeks. It is not. That's the romantic. And it happened to work out that way. But man, that's not. And that happened for 6 years, Nick? Absolutely not. No. Not even close. Right. There's late nights. There's where's the next paycheck coming? There's all those things are true, right? Those were 3 months, but everything else is a classic entrepreneur story. There's ups and downs. There's pivoting. You got to figure it out.
For sure.
Right.
Nick, that was, just super insightful, right? In the world we're living in right now, where anyone and everyone has such low barrier of entry of using AI in their company, and they're using it maybe not in the smartest way, right? Like you said, the simplest prompts. They're like, wow, look at me. I can produce 100 articles a day because I have ChatGPT. But what they don't know is even Google's refusing to acknowledge it at this point and ranking them. And they're wondering, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing the same things everyone else is, right? But not creating original content like we are doing right now today, right?
That's right.
And that's what really hurting them. So I hope listeners out there are taking this in, right, as they launch their business to not repeat these same mistakes, not think that I'm going to take the easy way out, just prompt a few things and think I can launch my business, and really focus on that brand building, right, that they're missing out on. So what make them unique, and not just, it's an aggregate of 20 different things out there, right, all mashed together like a slime monster or something. So my kids love playing with slime. That was my best analogy. Nick, so how do you stay motivated and focus? When things get tough, right? Like it seems like there is the bumps and stuff on the road. You mentioned like the low points, the COVID times. What gets you going in the morning?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I mean, there's a lot of self-generating motivation. If you don't have that, then this is not going to work for you, because there is no wake up and fake it, right? I mean, I remember when I had a job, and there were times where you're just like, it's Friday. I don't want to work, like it's Friday, summertime. Like, that may not
Friday.
Oh yeah. Oh, everyone gets off today. I mean, a half day off. Cool. This is awesome. Right. I mean, you have to earn that. You really have to earn that when you work for yourself. You need that self motivation to get up and want to create the thing that you're creating. And today it's SEO and websites, right? But maybe the thing that I want to create tomorrow may be different. But it's that self motivation and that looking at the thing, going, I want to work on that, right? That's the thing I want to work on, knowing that it's going to be hard, knowing that it's going to be a thing that, it's going to have roadblocks. There's a book that I'm reading. It's about animal behavior. The Kingdom of Animals, I think is what it's called. And there's a story in there about little piglets that the researchers are studying. And these little piglets are just like speeding around, little speed demons running around. And all of a sudden, like, they just belly flop out of nowhere. They don't trip on anything. They're not jumping over anything. They're just running full pace and then just like flying and flopping down. And like, what's going on here? And they come to the conclusion that they're planning for the unexpected. They're planning to be out in the wild being chased by something. They're planning on tripping and falling. They're faster than a bunch of other things out there that are trying to catch them for lunch. On a straightaway, they're going to live every day of the week. But life is not a straightaway. There are bumps. There are things we're going to trip over. And so be okay with the trip and the fall. It's the getting up part that matters the most, right? Sometimes whoever wins the race is the one that gets up the last time. So plan to get up.
I see that, and if I was a cheetah and I'm chasing these little piglets, if I see one do a belly flop, I'll just look at it confused and I'll just keep chasing the one running, So like, I want a challenge right here. Like, this thing is just flopping over his belly. What is it doing? Probably doesn't even taste that great, right?
Yeah,
but hey, it's a way of survival at times, right? And I think what it's saying is, don't be afraid of the down moments. Don't be afraid of the moments that really let you reinvent the wheel a little bit, right? Pivot.
That's right.
Go in a little bit different direction.
And even more than that, anticipate them. Know that they're going to come, and know that that's the time to push through. Right? There's a lot of resilience here, and it's cliche to say, you learn a lot about running your business and all that fun stuff, but you really learn about yourself. It's cliche, but the cliches are there for a reason. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's why they live on for decades, right? And people repeat them.
Right.
There's definitely some truth in them.
Right. So like, what have you learned about your business running it for 6 years, Nick? Man, I wait, not as much as I learned about myself, not even close.
It's a reflection of yourself, right? Especially for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, right? What lessons they take from their business, they reflect on their life and vice versa. That's right.
Yeah. I learned that I had more resilience than I thought. I never even thought about it. I never had to. Right.
Yeah.
But when contracts end, when folks go missing, when people don't call you back after having a good conversation, like, now what?
Yeah. If you're a 9-to-5 guy, that would be someone else's worry, right? You're like, okay, cool. Close my laptop and head home to my family, right? Next day, hopefully I'll still have no job and wasn't a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But when you're the guy, that matters. That's your bottom line, right?
That's right. And you got to be able to hold that, and you got to be able to hold the good times, the challenging times, and the vision of what you're building.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And with that, Nick, at Profit Powerhouse, we want to let people know how to run a long-term business, right? How to keep it going. Would you be able to share some details of how you manage kind of like the financial aspect of your agency or business?
Absolutely. So I have an accountant. They also do bookkeeping. I don't like to mess with it. I don't like, give me the guidelines. I want to make sure that I'm in a good position in every March, April, May, whenever they're going to get filed. Right. I want to make sure that there's no surprises. I want to make sure that someone's watching out for me. The best advice I got about taxes was tax planning happens all year long.
That's right.
And that is advice. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, great. Yes, you're right. And I just didn't think about it that way, But at the end of every month, there is reconciliation. There's touch points along the way, right? To make sure that we're on track, make sure we're doing the right things, pivot if we need to from that perspective. And once I heard that phrase, I started to equate it to what I do for a living. Right? It's SEO is the thing you look at every day, or you're aware of it, or it has its own cadence or something. But if you want to be successful, you got to get folks who know what they're doing.
Nick, can you imagine if, your client only asked you for an annual report on SEO, right? Just like once a year, let me know how I'm doing, right? Literally, if that was all they want, it's like, I don't need this monthly service, just give me to once a year. But that's basically what you're asking a lot of time for tax professionals, right? They're like, yeah, once a year, you got this handle, right? April 15, you got this down. And they're like, yeah, I can only do so much, right?
That's right.
When it comes to that time.
Yeah.
But then all that planning that you don't want to do or don't want to pay to do, right? you're missing out on so much of that deductions and things you could do for your business and ever-changing landscape of tax laws and things you can take advantage of. You're probably not able to do that because when April hits,
it's too late.
The year's closed, right? The year you're filing for, like right now in 2025 will be 2024. It's done.
That's right.
Right. And a lot of folks there don't understand that. So that was a great doom scroll you did there to get to that great fact right there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember going to the, I've had back troubles up out here gets junky, right?
Yeah, I get
that. And I remember what I did and when I did, and this was years ago, but it took a little while to sort of get the pain to really, right? And I end up going to, and I've done some work, massage and chiropractor and all the things, right? And I ended up going to a physical therapist, and it happened to be when my back was not great. Like it has its ups and downs, and this was like, ooh, not good. and she's like, show me how to do a squat, and it was just like, like I literally can't right now. It's not representative like of whatever good or bad form I have.
Today.
Yeah. Like it's just like I can't do it. And she's like, okay, so like, what are your expectations? And she must have seen some look in my eye because I'm like new medical professional. Like this is gonna be cool. She knows what she's doing. Like this is gonna be like. And she goes, so how long has this been at play? And I, years. So it's not going to take weeks to make it better. You know that, right? And it's just this meaning of reality, right? Of like, it's been bad for so long. And I don't care how excited I was about the credentials and what I was, sort of gleaming from this person. But the reality was it's been there for years and it's going to take time to make it better. And it's not weeks, right? So having the right expectations of whatever it is we're doing, in this case, planning of your taxes or your books or whatever it is, right? Like, get the right people in there sooner versus later to take care of you. And that is a really good step in the right direction.
No, absolutely. Along with everything else, right? What is your observation of like when a business owner should outsource something like their bookkeeping or tax filing? Is there like an imagined number in your head where like, okay, at this point, you're starting out, obviously do it yourself along with all the other things you have to do yourself. But at a certain point, you're like, nah, it's time,
I was working with a gentleman on personal taxes who also did business. Mm-hmm. And when I opened the company, I had a conversation with him. And he said, so here's what we should do and here are the reasons why. And he asked really good questions. Questions that I wasn't asking, LLC or S Corp. What about reconciliation? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Right. I don't know what you're saying. And I don't know what it means. And I'm sure you could explain it to me, but it felt like one of those things where I thought, I just want to get it right the first time and not correct it on the back end. I'd really prefer not to do that. And I was lucky to be in the position of those 3 or 4 months, and things were working out. If I wasn't being paid like I was paid in the beginning, I may not have made the right decision. To be honest, I may have been like, I'll use QuickBooks or I'll use whatever. Yeah. I'll like, it's not that complicated. Like I'll do the right things until I get to a point where it's meaningful, right? Well, I'm glad that it was meaningful out of the gate for me, or else I may have not done the best things.
Yeah, no, honestly, Nick, like there is that sweet spot, right? Like some folks, they come to you and expecting a magic bullet, and I'm like, wait, how far behind you are? 6 years. Cool. You haven't done any taxes or no idea how much money you're making, and you're just expecting me to come in and just fix everything. Yeah. Good luck, right? It's kind of like that kind of conversation. Or I said, yeah, we can, but boy, you're gonna be shocked for the budget you're gonna need to get this right? Because they're just falling so far behind, right? Whereas some folks like, my business started small, I'm building it up, and finally maybe I made a 6-figure number this year. I want to get it right at this point before I grow even bigger, right?
Yeah.
Those are the answers I love because they're like, yeah, I get it. You're just trying to budget, trying to save money at the beginning. You're a one-man show maybe.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you're like, I'm ready to expand. I'm ready to rocket this business, but I don't want things keeping me up at night, right? I don't want Uncle Sam knocking on my door saying, hey, you owe all these back taxes, or self-tax compliance getting in the way if you own a physical business, right?
Yeah.
So at a certain point, you just got to let go and find an expert in your field, understands your business. right? And solve it along with everything else, right? Along with SEO, advertisement, marketing,
All of it.
right? Find that
Yeah.
person that can get you going and propel you to the next steps, right?
That's right. Yeah. Do it thoughtfully. Whatever it is we're talking about, do it thoughtfully. Hire people you trust. If they don't work out, they don't work out. It's okay. Do it again. And I think what I'm saying is true, but keep me honest. Is even if you started a business as a 1099, right?
Like a contractor, yeah, like an independent contractor.
As a contractor, you have a full-time gig, and you're doing this thing on the side with the hopes of growing it. You can keep it clean by having a dedicated credit card for expenses over there. You get your 1099s. You make sure you incorporate that into your personal taxes. Everything is on that card if it's an expense. Let the accountants figure out what it all means, but you keep it clean as best as possible. And that scenario should exist when you LLC. I mean, the first thing I did it through LegalZoom, and then I'm getting like bombarded by
happily services they want you to add on. Yeah, I get it. I see.
Yeah, right. But also but then you're being educated, right? Like, oh, small business account from Bank of America. Cool. That sounds helpful, right? Legal services. Maybe I should look into that. Accounting services. Oh, okay. Right. So it starts to sort of create your stack of services immediately. And then you can choose which one to do or not. But having a business account and running everything through that account, I don't have to have a stack of receipts, right? Like do you want a receipt? I don't want that. I know where it's going. I know how to get it. It's all there. My accountant knows how to get it. It's cool, right? So QuickBooks and Bank of America and accountant, magical.
I can't emphasize enough that last piece of advice you gave, Nick, about having separation of your personal and business side of expenses. It makes the thing so much easier, right? The job's so much easier for yourself, for your accountant that you hire or CPA. And you don't have to go do that year-end reconciliation of like, okay, now help me understand which one's business and which one's personal. No one wants to do that year-end, right? You're trying to celebrate Christmas, New Year's, right? And all the holidays. And you're like getting bombarded by your accountant saying, well, I mean, I can't tell if this Amazon purchase you made is, an office desk. That's right. Or you're just buying some milkshake for your house, right?
That's right.
Right. Oh, but a lot of businesses, they're like, I'm not sure if it's a full-time thing yet. I don't want to separate it and then have to unwind it later. No. That kind of thinking is what keeps you from releasing it, right? Like actually going full-time because you're afraid. You're holding yourself back in a way, right? Of taking that next leap. In my opinion, right? I think a lot of them don't do it because you're like, yeah, look, I haven't even done those steps yet. I haven't started LLC yet. I haven't started my separation of my accounts yet. Therefore, I can always go back and if you think that way, I don't think it's a recipe for success.
You're describing something that I call screwing around, right? Like don't do it. Just don't do it. Like don't screw around with your books. Don't screw around with your SEO. Don't screw around with your whatever business you're in. Like don't like do it so it's going to work. You don't have to go all 10 yards, but like the 1 yard you do, make it a good yard, right?
For sure. No, appreciate that, Nick. So what we want to look ahead. What's next for you and your business? Any exciting plans or project in the coming year?
Google just made a change. So what is today? Today is the 22nd.
22nd of May.
They're rolling out a change. So there's going to be some AI taking over the SERP, the search engine results page. So when you
I see it already, right? There's always an AI thing on top.
Even more, it's going to start to happen. So you're going to be able to put in like something like this. I'm going to Hawaii. Where are the best 10 places I should go while I'm there that I have a week? And where should I stay? And what's the best car? What are the 10 things I should do?
Oh,
right.
So they added like AI agent into it.
They're coming out with that real soon, right? So that's going to change. It's going to change things. And I saw, we'll see how good it actually is. But what I saw, I was like, this feels good to me. Like this feels exciting. Like it feels useful, assuming it actually is useful. There's a lot of stuff after this, right?
Yeah.
But what I saw, assuming it wasn't vapor marketware, it looks sort of cool. And people get nervous about that. Like clients get nervous about that. How do I get in there? What do I need to do? Right. And so to be really explicit, I was talking to a prospect this morning, a buddy of mine who I've known since for a long time. And I said, here's how I'm thinking about it, Shane. It's an equation and it's just factors factor 1 times factor 2 times factor 3, right? So if someone's going to search, what are the best restaurants in Hawaii, on Oahu, that are vegan, gluten-free, open between the hours X and Y in Waikiki? Like, you better have all that information on your website someplace, right? And it sort of sounds obvious. Why would you not do that? Right? Here's what I do. Here's what I do it for. Here are the hours of operation, details.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks don't do it, or they don't do it well. And so when people go, but how do I get into those AI agents? It's all best practices of SEO expressed in a way that we're talking about, right? You're always looking at the SERP going, how do I get in there? How do I do it? And so now it looks like it's actually useful. In a long time, it's just been a lot of garbage and noise, from my perspective. Certainly for informational queries, how to, what type, that type of thing. Transactional queries, like when someone's about to plunk down their credit card, the SERPs are way better. But for informational, and this seems largely informational, it seems way more helpful. So I'm excited to see how working with folks to get in those patterns, we can build their business still. And there's going to be less clicks, but that doesn't mean the revenue should be less, right? And that's something that has to be navigated. It's an interesting time.
Yeah, it's like, I think Google is kind of like picking and choosing who they think is the authoritative voice of whatever that topic or search is, right? And then if you get to be that, you should be able to superpower or super boost your bottom line, right?
That's right.
Because everyone's like, well, Google's choosing this to be the correct answer and the most accurate answer. And if that's you, I'm going to your website and buying whatever it is that is, right?
Yeah, super.
Yeah,
cool.
no, that's amazing. I was looking forward more to the Google Glasses that they announced during the conference the last 2 days, because they have that live translation feature. And I'm trying to go to Japan with my family in November. I was like, oh man, I was like, how do I get my point across? I want to order this tonkatsu dish, right? Okay, great. I'm gonna use these glasses to do a live translation. So I thought that was really cool in the future. Yeah. Nick, thank you for getting us to this point. So at a final segment of the podcast, we usually ask our guests to give us one final advice, right? If you think back 20 years ago, if you just got started, what would be something that would be motivating for you to hear, right? It could be one thing, it could be two things, it could be three things that will really get your clock ticking, right? What is something that, listeners out there who are trying to take that next step, that big leap into the world of entrepreneurship that says, I heard what Nick just said in that podcast, I'm going to do it now, because that resonates with me, and that's what takes me to the next level.
Yeah, in my case, I would go with, and it's not a clean answer, because there's reasons why it worked out the way it did those first 3-4 months, right? It's because I was doing it for 20 something years. I had a network that was supportive. I had a history. I had reputation, right? And I would still say, I wish I had done it a little sooner. I wish I put my toe in the water, even if I wasn't looking to leave my job. And I did freelance quite a bit, off and on, for a long time. But I wish there was other things that I had started before 2019.
I see. So it's almost like telling folks out there, don't be afraid of taking that first step, right? Because they might also regret waiting so long, or waiting longer than they should have, right? To take that leap out there. Okay.
Yeah. So there may be a version of what you can do today, a flight, shall we say, right? You don't have to get a full beer, but maybe you get a flight of some kind, a taster, a little sample, and you dip your toe into it, right? And I could well imagine someone going, I don't know where to start. Great, perfect. At least give it a shot. Start something. Build a bad website. Build a bad app. Get a product together. Have it suck. It's okay. Remember those little piglets. They belly flop. Prepare to belly flop. It's okay. You will belly flop. You might as well be prepared for it.
I'm almost ready to call this episode the belly flop episode, right? Just title it that and see what SEO does for it. No, Nick, that was wonderful, incredible insight. I can't even mention how great it's been. I know there's a special offer you want to offer to listeners out there. So for at least the first 10 that lucky enough to click the link that I'm going to throw in the show notes below. Can you describe a little bit what we can get them?
Yeah. We were talking about the pillars, the 3 pillars, your technical, your content, your off page. And so for folks who are interested in the content game, So offering 7 months at the 6-month price, we're looking at 2 pieces of content every month, right? So instead of 12, we're looking at 14, right? So 2 extra pieces of content, articles specifically for your blog. So if you don't have a blog, this could be for you. If you're going into a new product, a new service, this could be for you. We do pretty darn good with blogs and getting sites ranked for the language that we all agree to. So that is, if you're interested in doing that, looking for more visibility in Google, Bing, search engines, and as you're talking about the AI agents, this is a great starting point.
Awesome, Nick. So like I said, I'll throw that link in the show notes below, guys. If you're the first 10 listeners, I highly suggest you start clicking on that link, right? This is an offer you don't want to miss out. You saw the expertise that Nick brings to the world of SEO, and this is the kind of person you want to work with. You want to accelerate your business. Nick, thank you so much for being on today. It's been a wonderful show. We hope to see you real soon again.
Alan, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Guys, we're out.